Welcome, one and all, to Halfcourt with your boys, Logan Dolby and Matt McClure. Got the new intro rolling this week. I love it. We had a little bit of technical difficulties with our typical cameras here, so Facebook Live is being streamed from yours truly, Matt McClure's laptop here, so bear with us if you like viewing on that or like listening on that. We're just dealing with some difficulties out here in the studio. The Celtics right now dealing with some difficulties of their own. Jaylen Brown turning down their 4-year, $80 million extension offer so that he does not hit restricted free agency. McClure, what's going on here with Boston?
Yeah, I don't really know what Jaylen Brown's thinking here. I understand he's coming off a pretty good year last year for the Boston Celtics, but if you look at this guy over his career, I think $80 million worth 4 years is pretty good. I mean, that's just me. But this guy's career numbers aren't really that impressive. I mean, he averaged 11 points his rookie year, or 11 points for his career. He had 13 points last year. Now, has he improved his game each and every year? Yeah. But 4 years over $80 million and being a young piece with Jason Tatum, I'd take that if I was Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics. He obviously wants a little bit more money, and it's a good team there, but I was actually caught off guard when Jaylen Brown declined this offer because I felt like that was around his price range and something that he would really like for the Boston Celtics.
I think for Jaylen Brown, this is actually a pretty smart money move. Just because of how weak free agency is coming into 2020. I mean, guys like Anthony Davis or Pascal Siakam are most likely going to get the Supermax by their teams currently, and then guys like a Brandon Ingram or a DeMar DeRozan or an Otto Porter Jr. and Buddy Hield all looking to hit the market, Danilo Gallinari. So Jaylen Brown really would be the best player to come out in free agency that year, maybe looking at a fat paycheck, especially now with Kyrie Irving off the team, Al Horford off the team, Marcus Morris off the team. We could maybe see Jaylen Brown play a little bit of 4 or have Gordon Hayward play the 4 and Jaylen Brown slide in at the 3, and his numbers would look to increase this year, maybe make a little bit more money than that $80 million that Boston is willing to guarantee him right now.
Yeah, and you said it. He could make more along the line and he could have a bigger deal, or the Celtics offer him a bigger deal. My guess is he'll probably stay in Boston long term unless somebody, like you said, in free agency brings him in and maybe overpays for him. But I was just a little caught off guard. I saw that deal. I'm like, hey, that's not a bad deal. But he didn't take it, and we'll have to see how things go for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and another young player, same draft, Buddy Hield. He's threatening to leave Sacramento because they're not going in or accepting his demands there for a contract extension. They want to offer him $90 million over 4 years, try and keep that young core together that they've assembled. And Hield said that he wants 110. He's actually going to go out. He's going to play for the max this upcoming season. He should get better this year. He's only gotten better as the years have progressed. I like Buddy Hield a lot, especially as a pure shooter of the basketball. This dude is top 5 in my opinion. He's only getting better. Once he came out of Oklahoma, he had a rough year or two, but now that he's really gotten into a swing of things, really impressed me last season. Buddy Hield looking for that fat payday.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. This is somebody who's grown into a pretty solid shooter in the NBA. Dolby, you kind of mentioned it, and we mentioned it with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown improved, and so did Buddy Hield, but Buddy Hield's numbers are better, especially last year. This is somebody who is lethal from 3. He can shoot from anywhere on the basketball court. He's working on his ISO game a little bit more. Him and De'Aaron Fox have been great for the Sacramento Kings. Buddy Hield, I think, deserves his money, man. And if you're the Kings, I think you got to sign him to that max deal, because the Kings have screwed up year after year with draft picks, letting somebody go. It's been a rough scene for the Sacramento Kings, and this is a year where people are saying this team is on the brink of the playoffs. Well, here's somebody in Buddy Hield that can help you out. I think you got to do it if you're the Sacramento Kings. You got to give him his money. He deserves it.
The Kings also offer Bogdan Bogdanovic a $51 million contract. He also plays the same position as Buddy Hield, so they can really have one or the other, especially since they signed Harrison Barnes to a monster contract. But if you're the Kings, you really have to keep this young core together. You were floundering for years and years with Boogie Cousins. You get rid of him. You trade him for Buddy Hield and 2 picks, which turned into Justin Jackson and Harry Giles. Harry Giles looking to get a good amount of minutes this year at either power forward or center for Sacramento. And Justin Jackson got flipped with a pick for Harrison Barnes. Or not with a pick, with Zach Randolph and Justin Jackson for Harrison Barnes to the from the Mavericks. So you've really been winning a lot here with trades and the draft, and you've been trying to make the playoffs for the past few years now. You're finally knocking on that door. You got to keep this young core intact if you're Sacramento.
Absolutely, and we've said it. I mean, this is a Sacramento team that has stunk in the draft, had made all the wrong moves over the last 10 or so years. They drafted Boogie Cousins, and you thought when he was drafted they were going to take that step, and it really never worked out with him. He was dominant for the Kings, but the team as a whole and winning wasn't a priority because they stunk up the joint. Now they finally got some draft picks here, and they got a young core, and you mentioned it with Harry Giles. This is a guy that was injured, and now he's coming back here, and he's got a big year this upcoming for the Sacramento Kings. He's got to be somebody to step up in that 4 to 5 role now, especially with Willie Cauley-Stein gone as well.
Yeah, with these 2 young guys looking to hit free agency this upcoming offseason, you've got the Memphis Grizzlies, the Atlanta Hawks, the New York Knicks, all with a lot of cap space. They could go on a spending spree here, maybe get 2 good young players to add to their cores, and I know for a fact their mouths are watering at the fact that these young players here are not signing their deals before the deadline here on Monday to get that done. They want them to hit free agency. And you know what? As a 76ers fan, I'm really hoping that Celtics pay that man Jaylen Brown. For Sacramento, I've been rooting for Buddy Hield. I've liked his career. I really liked him in college. I hope he gets paid just for the fact that I like the dude, and I think he really has game. But right now, if you're the Grizzlies, the Hawks, or the Knicks, you got to be loving this turmoil at the moment, especially for a guy like Buddy Hield. Could you imagine, like, a Buddy Hield next to Trae Young?
Oh, geez.
That's like the Splash Brothers of the East.
It really is. It is. You're right there. I mean, if you could imagine that, man, that's a lethal weapons there from 3 in Trae Young and Buddy Hield. That would be the Splash Brothers of the East, man. If you're the Hawks, you're loving this because they got some cap room now, and they could use somebody like Buddy Hield on the wing. That would be a big-time move if Buddy Hield went to the Hawks. They'd be right in there in the East. I'd say above-average playoff team sitting in the 5-6 if Buddy Hield would make that decision. But hey, I want Buddy Hield to get paid, and he's a big-time player. I think he's been great over the last few years, and he's grown. He understands how hard he's working. He wants it, man, and he's grinding hard, and it'll be interesting to see what the Kings and where he is.
In other news, Luol Deng retires from the league today. Played 15 years in the league. He was on a few Bulls teams that made a couple deep runs in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Luol Deng, though, I mean, he hasn't been anything special, just a solid rotational guy. He spent his last season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm really looking for this guy to maybe play in the Big 3. I would love to see Luol Deng, try and bust some chops out there in that other league, play maybe a little half court. He slowed down a bit towards the end of his career. I think that would suit him pretty nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is like year after year, he was a contributor to those Bulls teams that went on some runs in the playoffs. You knew what you were going to get from the guy, somebody that is going to play his heart out, who has a little bit of offensive game, can get some scoring there for you. You know he's going to bring it on the defensive end. He's had a solid career, 15 years in the NBA, and I agree, Dolby. This is going to be somebody you're going to be seeing in the Big 3. He fit that perfectly. I feel like, remember how Joe Johnson retired there for a bit and went to the Big Three and absolutely dominated. And then NBA teams were like, hold up, wait a second, Joe Johnson still got game. I think the same thing could happen here for Luol Deng. If he goes to the Big Three, I think he's going to be dominant.
And Andre Iguodala, 35 years old. We're talking about his buyout market potentially right now, saying that he's all right with just not playing for the Grizzlies. Currently, that's the team that he's on since the trade there from Golden State. He hasn't participated in any off-season workouts, anything like that. No preseason work, nothing. He's fine with it. So as Woj announced that Iguodala is okay with sitting out basically the whole season. He's not going to take a pay cut here just to get bought out. He wants his money. He's willing to go to a contender. Of course, teams around the league know that what his situation is, so they're not going to overpay him as far as a trade is concerned. So they're just going to wait on him getting bought out. Plus, it'll be cheaper for any team that is a contender. And right now, the Lakers and the Clippers at the top of his list.
Yeah, how do you blame him? I mean, this is somebody in Andre Iguodala who's been on these Golden State Warriors teams that have been contending year after year in the finals. Then he gets shifted off there to Memphis, and the situation in Memphis is obviously on the come up, but here's somebody that wants to still compete for titles. I mean, how can you blame him? I mean, I think he'd be a great fit in LA with the Lakers. He'd be a great fit for the Clippers. Hey, I'll take him back in Philly and have him come off the bench for the 76ers if he's willing to do that. He played it for the Sixers at the beginning of his career. He was a part of those Sixers playoff runs in the late 2000s, and he obviously got traded there to the Nuggets, had that big year with the Nuggets, and then the Golden State Warriors. So I'd love to have an Andre Iguodala on my team if I'm a Lakers, if I'm a Clippers, if I'm a Rockets. I mean, I think he'd be a great fit for somebody who's contending. And, hey, he doesn't want to play for a team that might make the playoffs, probably won't make the playoffs, and just burn out energy for no reason. He wants another title. How about he goes to somebody that can contend for one?
Yeah, I would love that if he signed with the 76ers once he got bought out. That would be a great move. Some dude that can just come in and play excellent defense off the bench, hit a clutch shot if you need to. Because right now the discussion is around Philadelphia, who's going to hit that clutch shot for you now that Jimmy Butler's gone? Is it going to be Tobias Harris? Is it going to be Joel Embiid? Is it going to be Ben Simmons? Who knows? But Andre Iguodala has proven time and time again that he's not scared of the moment. He's going to step up to the line. He's going to make his shots. He's going to be a professional about it. He's played over 1,000 games in the NBA. This is a seasoned, grizzled veteran here. He would be a great addition to anybody's teams. But right now, eyeballing the Clippers and the Lakers. McClure, who would you like to see him sign with out of those two teams in LA?
I actually think when you look at it, I think he'd have a better fit with the Clippers because they got a little bit – or Lakers. I'm sorry, Lakers I think he'd have a better fit with because if you look at it, they got some veterans on that squad. You got Dwight Howard and you got guys like LeBron and Avery Bradley and just an array of players on that Lakers team. And that's somebody that you can put on a Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs if he would be on the Lakers, and somebody who is going to be able to defend those kind of guys. He did it to LeBron how many years in the finals? He was the main guy when Durant wasn't on the Warriors that was guarding LeBron. So if you add that on LeBron's team on the Lakers, I mean, I think that fit's going to be perfect. If he goes to the Lakers, I think he'd be a good fit if he goes to the Clippers as well because that's somebody that could come off your bench. He's played with Lou Williams before, and again, he can guard any position really outside of the five. That I think. I mean, he guarded LeBron in those finals, man. So either fit would be good. I think the Lakers will be better just because of the different kind of characters and veterans they got on that squad.
Yeah, if you were to sign with the Lakers there, without a doubt, my lock to win it all, just because the defensive intensity on that team would be bar none. I mean, you talk about defense for the Clippers, but you add an Iguodala with a LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that's going to be absolutely stifling. If he gets bought out, we will see. But Andre Iguodala feeling it out right now and making that money. Go get it, Iggy. And Bradley Beal, speaking of money, just signed a pretty big contract there to stay with the Washington Wizards, a team that we expect to not really make much noise right now in the Eastern Conference, especially with John Wall still recovering from injury. The deal includes a player option at the end of the 2023 season, or for the 2023 season. It is up to 4 years, $130 million. Right now, it's a $72 million max contract. It's not quite the super max. He hasn't made that All-NBA team, so he's not viable for that option. But Bradley Beal rolling in cash right now.
And he deserves it. This is somebody who's an absolute stud on the basketball court. And him and John Wall have been an elite tandem for the Washington Wizards over the last few years. And now it's his team because John Wall's gone with the injury all season pretty much. And we saw in glimpses of last year that he struggled to take over that leadership role, I think, because that Wizards team wasn't really any good. And I'll tell you what, it's not that good this year. So I'm praying for Bradley Beal right now because the team's going to stink in Washington, and he's the only dude that's going to be able to produce on that squad. And he's a really good player. He can score from anywhere on the basketball court. He's a good defender, but you got just him on that team, man. It's going to be a struggle in D.C. I'm praying for you and your fans, man, because it's going to be rough.
2017-18 season, 2018-19 season, he averaged around 25 points per game, played in every single game, started every single game those 2 seasons. Wow. So been a really healthy player here for the Wizards. They drafted him. He's been with this team since that 2012 NBA draft, which we will be getting to later on in the show with our final blast from the draft. He started in the league at 19 years old, and he's only gotten so much better. This is a guy who could really push for an All-NBA team, especially since he is the only star on that team. He's going to have to go out and put up monster numbers. I'm kind of surprised that he signed this extension. I'm not surprised that the Wizards were looking to lock him down because they said earlier in the offseason that they really weren't looking to trade Bradley Beal at all. Nobody could really persuade them to move him. And this guy right now is the major part of whatever core they're trying to assemble in Washington. They don't want to give this guy up. They think that they have a franchise-changing superstar on that team. He's coming into his prime. He's really got 5 to 6 great years left in him. I think it was a great idea for Beal to make sure that there was a player option at the end of that deal, just because who knows where the Wizards are going to be in 2 years.
No one knows.
They could make a massive leap and be contenders in the Eastern Conference, or they could just remain the dumpster fire that they've been since they got kicked out of the Eastern Conference playoffs a few years ago. I mean, they look good. We were talking about it in the car whenever we were coming up. Yeah. They look like a team on the rise, and lately they've just been a pile of dog crap. I don't know what's going on with this Wizards franchise. They just signed a new GM this year. We'll see what they have in their back pockets. They're going to have to pull something out of their hats, though, because this season's going to look rough.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's going to look rough. And I give credit to Bradley Beal because this is somebody that wants to stay in D.C. and says, hey, I'm in my prime. I could go to a contender, but I want to stay here in Washington, see what we got going here, and maybe we can turn it around. I applaud Bradley Beal for that.
His contract, one more note about this before we head to commercial break, his contract is pretty close to what Russell Westbrook's contract was a few years ago. After KD left, they signed Westbrook to that extension. Basically the same thing. They didn't sign him for the full 4 years. They didn't sign Westbrook for a full 4 years either. It was more of a player option type thing, really giving the player a lot of power here, a lot of leverage for what they want to do in their career. It's really just more of a 1-year extension because he's not set to hit the free agency market even after this year without that extension. But Bradley Beal getting that money. We're going to go to commercial break. After we come back, we're going to be recapping NBA Wednesday preseason.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Bringing the segment back from last year. We love watching basketball on Wednesdays especially. So we'll be back with a little bit of Hawks versus Knicks, Lakers versus Golden State. and a few other games that were going on recently. We will be right back.